You're listening to Literally First Class, the podcast for female founders behind multi-million-dollar brands and businesses. I'm your host, Keri Ford, creative director turned 3-time award-winning coach, real estate investor, mom, and the one-on-one private advisor for multi-7- and 8-figure firms. If you're ready to make your next million, expand your impact, and lead with even more confidence, you're in the right place. Let's take your life and business first class.
This episode is for all of my high achievers, which, hello, all of you are high achievers because that's why you're here. You are growth gangstas. You are women on the fringe. You are dedicated to expansion and leveling up and becoming the best version of yourself. So basically, I'm talking to all of you. My client, Brittany Bronner, asked this question inside our Apex Academy a few weeks ago. And then when I also posted inside our Somatic Success Facebook group, which the link is below if you haven't joined that, get inside. She asked this question when I was doing like a podcast, question roundup. She goes, I think it'd be really helpful if you were able to dive into the question that I dropped in the Academy the other day. The answer was like so helpful. And I know that the women in the group got a lot from her asking the question and also seeing my response. So her question is this: how do you know when you are at capacity or just being stretched and grown? Oh my gosh, such a good question. Well, you have to know thyself. You have to know your nervous system. We work a lot on this in the Apex Academy, in my one-on-one container, where you start to get to know your nervous system, your unique edge, your capacity. And I'll say this, our capacity can shift for 2 reasons. Number one, the nervous system capacity, the window of tolerance that you have, right? I talk about this all the time. I'll say it again. Your capacity is what you're able to tolerate within a certain window of tolerance, aka your cup, I call it. So some people have a shot glass size cup. Some people have a large mug. Some people have a pint glass. Some people have a large vase, whatever. We all have a different level of capacity within our nervous system. This is what dictates our ability to stay curious, calm, and alert despite something stressful happening or not so great in our life happening. And it creates activation in our system, but our ability to handle it and hold ourselves and be okay is still there, right? And I'm not talking about going into a freeze response where it feels like you might be okay, but you've actually disassociated or you've shut down. This is truly when you feel connected, you feel, somewhat calm, and you are within the window of tolerance, aka what is tolerant still to be with. I can handle this. I got this, right? That's the feeling. So you'll know this based on just doing this work with me, right, in this program. And that's a hard thing to measure if you haven't done somatic work with someone like myself that is a trauma-trained nervous system practitioner that knows how to take you through certain exercises, through specific somatic healing modalities that can determine this. So how you respond or don't respond is everything, right? If someone is super reactive and their nervous system gets fixed, like stuck, meaning they hold grudges, they stay mad for a long time, they can't get out of that emotion very easily, they likely have a narrow window of tolerance, a smaller capacity to handle hard things. That's what that means. Because hard things aren't going anywhere, but your ability to handle them is the thing that can change, right? That's the thing we want to work on. And that's the measure of success with nervous system work. So that's the first part. How do you know when you're at capacity? Well, that depends.
This message sponsored by Po Hung Yu. Have you ever thought about microdosing before? Maybe you've even seen documentaries like Fantastic Fungi or How to Change Your Mind on Netflix. By the way, I have a funny story about the Fantastic Fungi, but you're going to have to ask me offline. Or maybe you've heard about the extensive research happening in the best universities and the evidence showing how mushrooms are game-changing for those with anxiety, depression, ADHD, and even PTSD. So many female leaders and moms have jumped on the microdosing bandwagon to help them better manage modern-day stress. I want to introduce you to our new brand partner, Po Hung Yu. She's a self-mastery mentor, microdosing guide, and a former acupuncturist. And as a successful woman like me, like you, imagine a life where your brain and your nervous system can just relax. That's exactly what happens when you microdose and you're guided by an experienced facilitator. So you can actually be present and enjoy your life minus the anxiety, overwhelm, and stress. The best part is you don't feel high, there's no psychedelic effect, and no one will know. You can still work, be with your kids, drive, exercise, and live your normal day-to-day life. But you'll still receive all of the amazing benefits of mushrooms, like increasing neuroplasticity, flow, creativity, focus, and even your connection and intimacy with your loved ones. Not only will you receive a 15-minute consult where Po will tell you exactly how this process works so you can decide if it's a fit for you, but you'll also get a bonus of $500 off and a complimentary root cause assessment call worth over $800 when you decide to work with Po. Click the link below in the show notes to get started today.
The other part about capacity is that it depends on the season you're in. Like if you are in a season where you just had a baby and you're also pursuing a specific certification and you're running a business and oh no, your credit card got stolen and you're dealing with fraudulent charges on your card and your oldest is graduating high school and like all of this is happening all at the same time, like your capacity is probably going to be kind of low, not because you have a narrow window of tolerance, but because you have so much fucking stuff going on. Like, you can only handle so much. That's not a healing issue. That's like literally you just have a lot of things going on. So capacity also being like, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. So what does your relationship look like when you have a lot going on? What is your relationship to that? What is your relationship to be able to handle a lot? How easily and fluidly are you able to move through handling those things? That also can determine capacity. Like how much room do you even have to handle another thing? And how do you relate to that? And then the other part of the question she asked is it just being stretched and grown? So, I never answer these questions in like, it's this or that, and this is the right way, because it's so nuanced. Everyone's nervous system is unique, right? That's why everyone does the leadership archetype work and framework in my programs, because we want to determine like, well, what's your nervous system doing? Like, what does your nervous system need? What's happening when you're in a stressful moment? What does capacity look like for you? Capacity might be, I'm at capacity if I've got 2 things versus somebody else it's like 8 things. It just depends. And what are those 8 things? So maybe it's a resiliency expansion invitation. Like maybe this is a stretching process, right? And maybe it's an exercise in being grown. I deeply believe in lessons and wisdom being obtained through sometimes hard things. Sure, that can definitely happen. So maybe you also are being stretched and grown while you're at capacity, and the way that you do that, yes, is actually being at that edge. Like you learn how to handle more by being able to handle more. So yes, that can happen. Also, it depends who's asking. This particular client, I have the privilege of knowing her nervous system and her archetype, and I know that she can handle a lot, right? She can handle a lot and she can do it really well. So if she's asking that, my response to her was like, you're probably at capacity because you never ask things like this, right? This is the gift of long-term mentorship and somebody that knows you really well. But somebody else that I know is in a growing and building phase of their life and their business and their nervous system, I might say like, stick with it a little longer. Like, I know it's hard right now, but you're in this liminal transformational space that I think is really ultimately going to be a gift for you if you can just straddle the 2 places where you are and where you're going a little bit longer. Like, it's going to be okay. So let's hold the faith. Let's work on moving through some of the things that are causing stress. Let's learn how to metabolize those things. Let's actively work on expanding capacity. But if somebody that already has a very high capacity for stress and does it well and can handle a lot of different things, it's not necessarily a healing thing with capacity. It's where do you need to delegate? Where do you need to get some things off your plate? How do you need to ask for support where you're not asking for it? So it depends on the person. It depends on the relationship with doing a lot of hard things. and their level of, stress and how they metabolize that. So I hope that answers that question. If you find yourself, in a growth and expansion place, or you find yourself at a, fuck this shit moment where you're just like, I can't do it anymore, you might need to delegate, right? Or you might also be, being stretched. It really just depends on where you personally are at, where your nervous system is. And if you want that training, by the way, around the leadership archetypes, we used to call it the anxious achiever archetypes. We call it the leadership archetypes now, just because it doesn't help to have you feel shame around anxiety. Everyone has anxiety. Some people experience it to higher levels and higher degrees, of course. But the leadership archetype, there's a free training inside the Somatic Success Society Facebook group. You can find that link below. And when you join, you can just shoot me a message and let me know, hey, I want that training, and we'll just tag you in it. It's totally free. You can get the framework. You can take a look and see where your nervous system is to see how you handle stress and what your nervous system might need. I give all sorts of free value around that. All right, I'll see you on the next episode. Keep it first class.
Thanks for tuning in to Literally First Class. If today's episode inspired you, hit subscribe and leave a review. It helps us reach even more incredible women like you who are ready to level up, lead with impact, and make first-class moves. I'll see you in the next episode, but until then, keep dreaming big and taking bold action.